Welcome. We have an emergency. We have an emergency podcast for today. We are recording on Wednesday. We just recorded Tuesday, episode 15. But yeah, some breaking news happened and we could not wait to, get it off our chest. So, Lawrence, let's kick off the show, the MTL emergency podcast episode. Into the breaking news that just dropped this afternoon. We had a couple of some pretty bombshell reports that dropped early this morning, for the most part on ESPN, because unfortunately we don't have our dear show Undisputed anymore, at least for the time being. But anyway, just to kick it off, our first report that came out early this morning, Bradley Beal, I guess from their Wizards front office, their new executive, basically the guy in charge of the Wizards, the Mystics, and the Go-Go, Michael Winger, basically informed the media, leaked this report that he will work with Beal for any trades that might happen, in this offseason or maybe even into the season, as the team looks to potentially full-on rebuild. So, Lawrence, I'm going to let you kick it off first. I know we already did our regular season grades and the Wizards off season, but they got a new GM. They basically got a new president as well. It seems like there's, with the new sheriff in town, he wants to start laying down the law, making his own laws, basically. So should the Wizards go on a full rebuild? Should they go on a full-on retool, kind of like the Jazz did? Or should they keep the ship going?
I kind of like to see him blow it up, but I also want to see Bradley Beal be like the greatest Wizard of all time. That's kind of how I view it. I don't know. Even if they rebuild, they're not going to be anything good for another couple of years. So, you can ride out the ship with Bradley Beal, knowing that you did, your boy John Wall pretty dirty. I guess I'm not a diehard enough Wizards fan to say I want to watch them. I want to see them rebuild so my team can be good in a couple years. I don't know. I kind of like players who maintain their loyalty, to the same brand the whole time. It's kind of harder in the NBA than it is in other sports, like a Larry Fitzgerald kind of guy. It's just that, like, the trade packages that you can get for Beal are just so fluctuatingly. They're all up in the air. I took some screenshots from an ESPN report that I saw on YouTube, and they had three trade options, and it was the Heat would receive Bradley Beal, the Wizards would receive Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and a 2028 top 10 protected first. Yeah, that sounds trash. So I got to wait only until 2028 to get some kind of pick. I think the hero Duncan Robinson, I don't think Robinson has much upside. I think the only thing good about the trade is Hero. Next, you got Bradley. The 76ers received Bradley Beal. The Wizards received Tobias Harris, Furkan Korkmaz, and a 2030 top 10 protected first. Why am I waiting all the way to 2030 for a first round pick? Don't really like that one either. And then the Knicks received Bradley Beal. The Wizards received Evan Fournier, Mitchell Robinson, Derrick Rose, 2024 Wizards first round pick that they would get back from the Knicks, and then a 2025 first round pick. Out of all those things, the only one that seems enticing is the Knicks trade, because if we're going to try to retool, we're going to try to rebrand. Well, I need picks now. I don't need picks 7 years from now, 6 years from now. I don't see the point in that. You're gonna be sitting here forever trying to rebuild. That kind of logic.
Okay, so we thinking retool or rebuild? Like, just blow it up?
I'd like to see him try to retool it. Something that, like, one of the comes in my mind is like, okay, we get rid of Beal, you send Beal to Portland so you can keep Dame happy. Obviously, you need to make contracts work and you need some talent back. Beals already doesn't want to play with Simons anymore, or he wants more, maturity. Send Simons over there. Maybe Simons and Kuzma can click and become a little tandem. Porzingis can get lobs all day. Try to figure out how you can get a bigger man than Porzingis to play dirty in the paint, so Porzingis can play power forward. I mean, there's pieces about the team that can retool quick. I mean, they just need a couple moving parts, and if you just get rid of the Beal contract, where you can spend a lot more in free agency, who knows what you can bring in once you get rid of that big massive contract. I mean, even if somehow you were able to pawn off the contract to somebody else, you got players like Fred VanVleet that are available now. Like, some of the problems that the Wizards have had is, tenacity on defense. Fred VanVleet's not a good defender, but he still tries to get in your face. And sometimes you watch the Wizards play and they don't even put a hand in the face. Sometimes all you gotta do is put a hand in the face. That's sometimes all that half the battle. So I mean, at least VanVleet will put a hand in the face and shoot some threes that sometimes they lack. Because Beal isn't the best 3-point shooter. He's more of a driver.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. I'm leaning more towards the full on rebuild. I said it as soon as they hired Winger, and just from his past experience with the Clippers, being really aggressive with a lot of trades. His first move when he was hired actually was to trade Blake Griffin to the Pistons, and that was a couple months after he signed his max deal back then. So, I mean, if you look at it, I don't think they let this report get out, and especially not on like ESPN where it was first reported. Like, Brian Windhorst just let it go, or I'm pretty sure it was either Windhorst or Shams or someone let it go early this morning, and then they basically took Twitter, Instagram, took all like social media over, right? So I feel like they are pretty heavily considering this full on rebuild. Some of the trade packages you already mentioned, I don't really like them at all either. I feel like if the Wizards are going to retool or rebuild, actually, they need a combination of things, right? They need multiple picks, so they're gonna need at least 2 or 3 picks. They're gonna need probably like an expiring contract and plus a young guy or a guy that they think they can flip for another pick. So there's not too many teams that can offer that, and a lot of teams are going to be lining up. But at the end of the day, because of Beal's no trade clause, it's going to be a limited pool of actual contenders that can actually win the Beal sweepstakes. So you already said it. The Heat, I feel like for them, and even though they're my team, I'm gonna try to be objective here, but I feel like they're kind of in a hard place because they're gonna. I feel like once again they're gonna try and play both sides here. They're gonna try to play the Dame hand, and they're gonna try and play the Beal hand, and I feel like it might end up screwing them again. For the most part, just because it seems like both teams are trying. Portland and Wizards are trying to get this trade done before the draft so that they know what draft capital they have to work with in this draft. So it's going to be hard to kind of juggle both. But two trades that I have in mind. I feel like the first one we can get Lowry, Robinson, and whatever other filler we need to throw in for Beal. Let's give them 2 picks. Let's give them this year's, and let's give them 2026, or I think we can give them 2027 or 2028. So that way they have the pick this year, and then they have a pick in the future, and then they can flip Robinson down the road, or they keep him for a season because they do need shooting. So hey, we'll give you shooting now. He has 3 more years on his contract, got a decent rate. He pretty much regained his trade value through the playoffs. So hey, he's gonna shoot above 40%. Now he's spitting the ball on the floor. So you have a guy who can create, he can shoot threes at a high volume, high percentage. So it makes sense. And then Lowry, his contract's expiring after this season. If you want the immediate relief, you can waive him and then stretch his contract over the next 3 to 4 years. So they could do that. Or the most likely scenario is including Hero in that package you already said. So we'll see. I feel like if they want to go for Dame, if they want to keep Dame in their best interests, they probably float that Lowry trade first, just so that they can have Hero in their back pocket and like a couple extra picks. They can get another extra pick if they change the protections off of the OKC 2025 pick that they owe them. So they could potentially free up another pick. Portland, I like, but only if, and I said this in all the group chats that we have, Portland only makes this trade if they can keep Grant. If you can keep Grant, because Portland's biggest problem for the past couple of years has been small forward. Like, they haven't had a good small forward since they've gotten him. And this year he was playing pretty well, especially when Dame was out. He carried the Portland for a couple of wins, and then Josh Hart got traded, and then he just like kept playing really well. So I feel like you only make that trade if you can keep Grant, sign him, bring Beal in. He's basically another CJ McCollum, but probably a little bit better. I think he's a little bit better. And then you have Dame, aged 32, going on 33, playing the way he did last season. I feel like it's a good trade for them. And the Wizards get a top 3 pick, which reports say they want to move into like the top of the lottery, top of the draft. So I feel like that's good for them. A sleeper team, I feel like for Beal, I don't think it's the Sixers, but I feel like Brooklyn could be a sleeper team. I feel like Brooklyn is a team to watch just because of all the wings they have. And they regained basically the picks from Phoenix. They have 4 picks to work with now from Phoenix. So, hey, let's throw 2 picks and let's throw the Wizards like, I don't know, Cam Johnson, sign and trade Cam Johnson over there. Let's give them Finney Smith. Let's throw that in there, and then whoever else they want from Claxton, whoever. Like, just make the salaries work. They have picks. Bring in Beal. Got Mikal Bridges. You have Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, that's a nice little, triple combo that can compete in the East. But yeah, let me ask you this: do you think he actually gets traded before the draft, or is this a thing that's going to drag out until the season starts, or do we have to wait till the trade deadline? Like, what's the timeline that you think it's going to take?
I think it's gonna be one of those things that's gonna happen during the season. Someone just trying to make a move for him seems just kind of doesn't seem like it's a great idea.
Yeah,
especially if they start doing really bad and really poorly halfway through the season, and it's just like, okay, it's just so clear that this doesn't work. Even when they're all healthy, it's just very clear. With whatever patch job they try to, put in place, there's gonna be some team that's just like on the fringe, and they're just gonna give the bag to Beal. They're gonna give the Wizards something that they can't say no to. Who knows who it's gonna be? It could be someone, like you said, someone super crazy that we're not thinking about doing that could do it at all. Like, don't really have any ideas who it could be. But what if it's like a team like, the Kings, who are halfway through the season? They're like, oh man, we just need. Oh no, that doesn't work because they're just so offense talented. Beal is such a liability on defense. It's gonna have to be a team that's like defensively strong and offensively just has a liability on that end. Maybe like a team like Toronto, it's just like, dude, maybe we're good. We don't know, but we can't really score at will, but we can play defense. Or basically like the Knicks again. I kind of like the Knicks package with, Evan Fournier with an expiring contract. Mitchell Robinson kind of does the paint work that they kind of need him to do. So and that'll let Porzingis, move outward. But the only problem with that is like the pick is 2030 is what they had in the little slide. Like, nobody wants a 2030 pick. That's 7 years from now, dude. That's
way
7
too
years.
far out. It's not going to help them rebuild.
You can give him a more reasonably sooner pick. Like, gotta give him something. I mean, and Beal could definitely help that team on the offensive end. Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
you allow RJ Barrett just to play defense and stop having to try to score and shoot threes. Doesn't seem to work very well for him.
Yeah, I agree. Has to be defensive minded team who at times struggles on offense. That's why I picked the Nets. They're very much in the same boat as Miami, but just not as talented. But they have plenty of assets to throw at them, so it makes sense there. Portland makes a,
Oh,
Portland makes a lot of sense. What were you gonna say?
oh! I was trying to think mentally how it could work, but for a moment it was like, oh, well, Cleveland makes a lot of sense, but he's not going to want to go to Cleveland, so that doesn't make sense. But like, Cleveland has bigs who play sus. Like, we're looking at them, we're like, okay, you got like we talked about, like the bigs, they just weren't hitting. Like, they just didn't do their job right.
Yeah,
Well, they don't have to play offense when they're in Washington. They can play just straight up defense, and it kind of takes an offensive. It kind of takes the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hand to have to score every single time, half the time. I mean, Garland can kind of move over to playing a surefire point, and it probably do Beal a great deal of justice not have to play point guard and just straight up play shooting guard. And it's not like the Cavs aren't deep enough at the deep end, anyways. I don't know. It was just something that came to my mind when we're talking about defensive teams and guys who have paint work that the Wizards probably need. So it just kind of came to my mind, but he's not going to want to go to Cleveland. So, unless he thinks they can win a title, and who knows, maybe Cleveland's sitting halfway through the season at like the third seed. Then it doesn't seem like that horrible of a place to go to.
yeah, I agree. I don't know if Cleveland has any more picks left, but whatever team that wants to get into the sweepstakes, they need at least like 2 or 3 picks, and they need like the salaries to match, right? So, and they need Beal to want to go there. So, and that just sucks because as the only guy in the NBA who has a no trade clause, he basically holds power over everyone. Like, he's gonna go wherever he wants to go for whatever reasonably priced deal that the Wizards can find. So the Wizards in any trade aren't gonna win. Like, there's no win. There's no way to win in a trade with Beal. I just feel like you take the highest offer from the one of the teams that he wants to go to. I feel like that's just the best way to go. But moving on, we already said a little bit about Dame. The Dame rumors have been going on for like the past week or so, ever since the finals started. Kind of came to a head today with the Beal rumor that just got leaked. So another guy that's potentially on a trading block. They're kind of stuck in between wanting to keep that third pick and wanting to keep Dame. So what's your early feel on Dame? Is he leaving or is he staying?
I think Dame's just one of those players that no matter what he says, he is a Larry Fitzgerald. I think it's just that Weber State, like coming out of Weber State, and falling in love with the city and everything. Like, I don't know if he just has that interest to leave, because then he has to like restart and everything. I mean, that third overall pick, you don't know what it can do. I mean, they're talking about that third overall pick turning into Zion, and that only happens if Scoot Henderson's still available. So I just don't see a way in which he leaves, because of what someone's going to have to give Portland for him,
Yeah.
and like his injury history. Like, Mance doesn't play a lot of the year because he's constantly injured. So we're going to have to take that into account. And that's just big to me. Like, Dame has just been the last couple of years just constantly hurt, and it's not even like we know if he's actually hurt or not, or if he's just sitting out because the team didn't have a chance anyways. Kind of injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's the same. It's almost the same situation as Beal, but there's he doesn't have a no trade clause, and in this case, he's made it clear that he's not down to stay for a rebuild again. Like, he made that clear pretty much the back half of the season, like starting at the All-Star break. Did a couple interviews like, yeah, I'm not interested in rebuilding. I'm not interested in playing with young guys. He kind of doubled down about a week ago. I think he was on some podcast and they asked him, like, hypothetically, if they're going to keep that pick, like, who would you want to go to? And he named Miami and Brooklyn, like, right off the bat. So he definitely has interest in going. I feel like unless Portland can make a really good swing at a player like a Beal or like a Zion, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I think he's gone. I feel like those two are like they're pretty much the only trades that really move the needle for Portland. Scoot or Brandon Miller, I wouldn't say they're going to be generational players, but they're going to be, at least Scoot looks like he's going to be like at least an all-star. Like, he reminds me a lot of Ant, just like a smaller Ant, like Ant Edwards. He's basically that, a lot of upside. He's already played in the G League. Like, I think he's going to be really good. And Brandon Miller lit it up in college, got into some legal issues, but as long as he stays out of that, I feel like he reminds me of like a Brandon Ingram. He's probably just going to score the ball a lot, and he can facilitate too. So, yeah, I don't know. Besides Beal, besides Zion, Fred VanVleet, him and Dame don't make sense. Just keeping the team intact doesn't make sense because even when Dame was healthy, they were what, like a 5th seed, 6th seed at best. Like, that's not going to get them anywhere. So, anyone else available? Like, Kyrie doesn't make sense. Chris Paul doesn't make sense. Like, if you can trade for Ayton, that doesn't make sense. Like, there's just not a guy out there besides the two I mentioned, at first, that really moves the needle. So I feel like it's just time to get rid of him. Just, hey, it's time to move on. There's not an abundance of trades that make us championship worthy at this moment. We're just gonna have to move you, recoup what at this point for Dame. He's not going for a Gobert price. He's not going for a KD price. I would probably say that he's probably going for at least 3 though. I don't think he's going for a Gobert price or even KD price.
I think his price has to be better than like Kyrie Irving. I know Kyrie Irving's not getting traded or anything, but his price is definitely better than Kyrie because you can't even predict if Kyrie's going to play for you more than 12 games without him getting on his Twitter rant and then quitting on your team. So at least Dame's going to give you everything every single night, every night that he can play.
Kyrie went for what? Finney Smith. Who else? Finney Smith and like 2 seconds or 2 firsts and something else. Right?
Spencer
Dinwiddie and 2 firsts, I feel like.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, Dame's going for at least 3. 3, a young guy, and probably a salary filler. Do we have any teams in mind? Miami's an obvious choice. They're gonna be linked to anybody who's potentially open, but any other potential suitors for Dame?
I think a team like Oklahoma City can make a move for Dame only if you bring in some other guy. Like if he can go play with SGA, Giddey, because Oklahoma City can give them every pick in the world they want. Like, they have so many picks, they can give them all the picks in the world. So you get Dame to shore up your point guard spot. You got SGA doesn't have to play point. He can play shooting guard, perfect for him.
Yeah.
You got Lou Dort. He's going to go hard for you every time defensively. Shores up Dame's a little bit of his compromise in defensive ball. Giddey's always going to play hard for you.
Yep.
You got kind of some young talent who play tough. They're not the same young talent who just want to party and have be dumb. They're kind of small market young talent who play tough and play gritty. I just think if you can bring in some other kind of piece, you can make and you have to do it before you make the move for them. But you can bring another piece in and say like, hey, we're making splashes, we're making moves, like come play for us. Oklahoma City just seems like a good place. Like he's proven he likes small markets. I mean, he played at Weber State. He's played in Portland. Like he loves the small market atmosphere. He loves that kind of, I guess, vibe around him. So if he can find Oklahoma City and they can bring in some pieces to make him more appeased at joining there, I can't see how it would be bad. And there's no saying how good Chet Holmgren is either. I mean, you get to see him play, so maybe he's beefing up since he can't play, can't work out. Maybe he's eating a little bit more so he can beef up.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like I love the OKC trade. If they can make the salary work, they don't have too many big contracts. So, I mean, a lot of those young guys probably have to go, but I feel like it's for the better. I feel like you pair Dame with SGA, and you can still keep Giddey somehow, keep Jalen Williams, both of the Williams guys that you just drafted, and they have tons of picks, so they could easily give 3-4 picks.
I mean, they have enough picks so they can be stupid and give 5, like a Timberwolves idiotic move. Like if they truly wanted to, they could be dumb. Don't think they would be dumb, but
I hope not.
They could be dumb if they wanted to be.
Yeah, I hope not. For the rest of the NBA, I hope not. I think for my sleeper team, you could say the Nets again, but I don't feel like they're even if Dame goes there, I don't think they're good enough because just him and Mikal Bridges, I don't think is enough. Especially, I mean, the East, you got the Bucks, you got the Celtics, Miami's going to be back, Philly, we're kind of uncertain. I don't think the Nets kind of get into the upper tier with just Dame and Mikal Bridges. So unless they could do like a 3-team trade and pull back 2 stars with all their assets they have, I don't feel like that's really a spot for him. I feel like Phoenix is interesting because if Phoenix is really, really down with moving off of CP3 and Ayton, I don't know exactly how those contracts match up with Dame's, but if they can make the money work, why not trade Dame to Phoenix and the Trailblazers can get back Ayton and Chris Paul, and then you have Chris Paul for a year. Money comes off the books. You can even waive him because his contract's like half guaranteed. You have Ayton. That means you can probably trade Nurkic at that point. You don't really need Nurkic if you have Ayton. I feel like that's a good starting point. And then you have Simons, and then you have whoever you get at 3, which is either Scoot or Brandon Miller. I feel like it's a great trade and I mean, Phoenix is tanking, so they don't care that they're sending Dame to another team on the West. I feel like that's a perfect trade.
You really think Phoenix would just tank though?
No, Phoenix not tanking. If they get Phoenix,
yeah. Sorry, never mind. I heard you wrong.
No, if Portland trades, they're tanking. They're not going to retool. I feel like they'll tank.
All right.
So, I guess the last little bit of breaking news. Zion. Somehow, Zion strangely got brought up this morning. Wendy on, I think it was either Get Up or on First Take, brought up that Zion's potentially on a trading block. Like, I guess teams are probing the Pelicans because the Pelicans have put out that they want to move into the top of the draft, just like the Wizards. Just like a lot of teams want to move up into the top of the draft. I feel like a lot of teams must love Brandon Miller and Scoot, so they kind of want to get into that top 2-3 spots. And Wendy's he's pretty much right. Like, if you want to get into that number 3 spot, the number 2 spot, like, you're gonna have to trade either CJ, BI, or Zion. So Lawrence, I'm gonna throw it to you. Out of those three, who's the most likely to get traded for that number 3, the number 2 pick?
I don't. It's not Zion. I don't see anyone moving for Zion. My only issue with Zion is, I guess, kind of the issue with that the first 2 picks in that draft. Like, they both just seem to be kind of just idiots. At least one can stay healthy, but he's too busy playing with his guns to stay on the court, and then the other one can't stay healthy and is knocking up porn stars. So you're leaving me down to my options of, what are my 2 options again?
Pelicans probably either going to trade Ingram or CJ, but I don't really see CJ as.
No, CJ is too. CJ.
Probably too old and washed.
I wouldn't say old and washed. I just think he's more of a leader on that team. I just feel like if you move him, it's completely. You're just completely revamping, restarting, just retooling. You're just redoing everything if you get rid of CJ. I think you can get rid of Brandon Ingram, to be honest with you. He's always hurt. I think you can move off of him and find another way to, win games. I mean, the problem with your team is the fact that your stars are constantly hurt. Like Brandon Ingram, always out, always hurt. Zion Williams, always out, always hurt. And those are your 2 stars. Like, outside of that, the only one playing every single game is CJ McCollum. So, I mean, blow it up at this point because you failed on your draft pick. Zion's obviously proven he cares more about the streets than the game. Cares more about
the P Hub. I don't think it's the streets; it's about the P Hub.
cares more about the food than the ball. I mean, CJ's probably your biggest tool or biggest asset at the team at the current moment. Just because you get him every single night, you don't get the other 2 every single night.
Yeah, I think you keep. I don't know. Depends on who they. Because for me, I feel like Charlotte's not in the position to trade because Charlotte just needs talent. So I don't think. I mean, they don't really need Zion. LaMelo's coming back from injury. You have Miles Bridges, who's talented but has issues, right? Legal issues, beats women, horrible guy. So Miles Bridges is kind of equal to Brandon Ingram, like kind of the same build, kind of does the same thing to a lesser degree. And then Zion, they don't really. I mean, honestly, they don't have a need for Zion. I mean, Zion, he wants to win. That's why he wants to lead the Pelicans. It's pretty well known that he's not thrilled to be there. He wants to go to New York or some other big market. Like, he wants to be a big market player. Charlotte's not that. Even though he is signed to Jordan, it kind of makes sense. But if MJ is going to sell a team in a year or so, does it really matter if he goes there? No. So I don't think Charlotte's the way to go. And I said it earlier, like, Portland's pretty much the only team that's going to make a swing at Zion, just because it's one of the only trades that can kind of move them over the top. But like you said, it's like Zion's always hurt. So if you trade the 3rd pick for Zion and he only plays like 40 games, like, what does that do for Dame? Like, he's not going to be happy. And there's no guarantee that a change of scenery and playing with another, playing with a Hall of Fame top 75 player is going to change Zion's attitude. Like, he played with CJ. CJ's a great player. He doesn't care. He didn't change, So there's no telling, what's going to make this man actually happy besides watching P-Hub videos and hitting up those girls he's watching. So, I think at some point the Pelicans are going to move on from Zion. I don't know if it's going to be this draft. I think they're kind of dumb to try to, climb into the top three, because when all three, BI, Zion, and CJ, when they were all on the floor, they were like a top 2 seed in the West. Like they were on a hot streak. They were cooking. So I feel like you give them at least another shot, and someone's going to have to sit down with Zion and say, hey, no more gumbo, no more jambalaya, no more beignets, no more Cajun pasta, no more crawfish boils, like
no more crepes.
no more crepes, no more any of that Cajun food. You can't be living that life. You already big. You another Charles Barkley. We can't have you 300 plus pounds. It's in your contract. You have to be at least 295 or under. So, but yeah, I give it another year. I feel like the report's a little premature, but they're not reporting it if it's not at least, if they're not at least like considering it 50%. So there's probably some truth to it. And Wendy's been known to not say, a bunch of BS. So I would give it some truth, but we'll see next week. If a trade happens, it's going to be next week. So we'll see.
We'll see.
All right, that's pretty much all of the breaking news that dropped today. We had to get it out there just because it's huge, right? I mean, a year ago we didn't Beal sign his deal. We thought he was locked in Washington for the next 5 years, but lo and behold, the guy's on the trading block. Same with Zion, same with Dame. So we'll see, y'all. We'll still have another or actual pre-free agency show probably sometime next week or the week after, before free agency starts on the 30th, I believe. So stay tuned for the episode. But in terms of today's episode, this emergency MTL Sports Podcast episode, we will be signing off. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube and Spotify. And we will catch you later. Peace.
Farewell.